Hey everybody, my name is SPAZ, and I'm a CD junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be discussing an Irish band by the name of the Boomtown Rats. That's right, a lot of you know them because of the hit single, I Don't Like Mondays, but I'll tell you, they were much more than that one song. Although that song is great, and it still stands the test of time, still sounds wonderful. But I always like to start these episodes off with talking about how I got into the band. And that was basically because I believe that I had seen a video or heard the song Rat Trap from their second album, A Tonic for the Troops. Friggin' blew my mind. Here was a new wave band that was using piano, saxophone, great arrangements, great lyrics, and there was a sense of urgency to it, but there was also a lot of originality to it as well, thanks to the vocals and lyrics of Bob Geldof, who many times during that period, he's often referred to in the press as Bob Geldorf. I don't get it. Sometimes I wanted to sit down and write a letter to every magazine that printed his name as Bob Geldorf. There's no R in Geldof. Anyway, I was blown away by that track. And I went out and I bought A Tonic for the Troops. That must have been late 78 by the time I got it, so I was 15 years old and entranced by this record. But then I found out that they had an album out before that, which I'd never heard of before. So we're going to start at the very beginning. Now, the Boomtown Rats were Bob Geldorf on vocals, Pete Burkett on bass, Gary Roberts on guitar, Jerry Cott on guitar, Simon Crowe on drums, and these amazing backing vocals. His voice is so amazingly strong. And of course, Johnny Fingers on piano, keyboards. Anyway, this was the first album. Came out in 1977. This really didn't sound like the Boomtown Rats of later. This was much more energetic, much more influenced by the punk and post-punk scenes. It was really more rock and roll than anything else. It was tough, it was smart, great arrangements, great songwriting, but I think they had to shake out a lot of those rock and roll tendencies in order to get in touch with the diversity which eventually made them one of the finest bands of their era. This is the remastered version with bonus tracks, as you can see there. Great songs on here like Looking After Number One, Mary of the Fourth Form, Neon Heart, Joey's on the Streets Again. Just lots of great songs on this. 1977, Boomtown Rats, self-titled. Then, of course, 1978 comes the album that I was talking about, and that is Tonic for the Troops. An amazingly great record. This has Like Clockwork, She's So Modern, which kind of resembles the sound of the first album, but in fact it's even more fun than the first album. But then there's also I Never Loved Ava Braun, which is one of my favorites. Don't Believe What You Read, Living on an Island, Me and Howard Hughes. Great. And of course, Rat Trap is on this album. This is the expanded edition with bonus tracks. Now, a lot of people have complained about the remaster, saying they were remastered too loud. I was born with bad hearing, so I don't realize stuff like that because I just turn it down a little bit if it's too loud. You know, problem solved. But it still sounds great. Boomtown Rats, A Tonic for the Troops, 1978. Now, I really dug the Boomtown Rats, but it wasn't until 1979 that I fell in love with the Boomtown Rats. The Fine Art of Surfacing. This is the album with I Don't Like Mondays. The minute I put the needle down on this record and the song Someone's Looking at You came on, within 45 seconds, I just thought, holy, this is fantastic, amazing. This is going to be quite a listening experience, and it truly was. I'm so in love with this album that for a couple months I was contemplating marrying it. It was so fantastic and wonderful. This is the expanded edition. It includes, of course, Someone's Looking at You, Diamond Smiles, Sleep is another great song, Nice and Neat, Keep It Up, Nothing Happened Today. And then, of course, bonus tracks there at the bottom. You can see the bonus tracks. Fantastic album. One of the best albums of 1979. An absolutely stellar, wonderful album. Then in 1981 comes Mando Bongo. Now, on Mando Bongo, they went with a new producer, Tony Visconti. And possibly because of the success of the previous record, they decided, well, let's up the ante here. we've already done that. Let's just pile more stuff on top of it. And boy, it's like a sonic delight. It's dense, but it's still melodic. It's still in your face. It's still smart and infectious. And it contains some of their finest singles like The Elephant's Graveyard and Banana Republic, which is Banana Republic on their record. Please Don't Go, Another Piece of Red, This Is My Room. A lot of great tracks on this. Now, of course, this is the remaster with bonus tracks, as you can see there. Now, when they released it in the U.S., they mixed the tracks up. They added the incredible single, Up All Night, and it actually is a different mood. And I have to admit, this is one of the first times that I realized that sequencing the tracks it plays a huge part in the way the album sounds, the way the album feels, because this has essentially virtually the same tracks as the UK version, but they're in a different order. They're sort of mixed up a little bit, and it has a different feel overall than the British version. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm going to say I probably stand by this one because this is the one that I knew for 10 or 15 years before I even heard a British copy of the album. Either way, it's a great album. It's very different. I'd almost call it a slight left turn because they were becoming more eclectic, which may or may not alienate fans. You know how some music fans just want the band to record the same album over and over and over again, and then they complain that the band is recording the same album over and over again. Well, Boomtown Rats never did that. Boomtown Rats always tried something new, tried something different. Speaking of which, guitarist Jerry Cott left, and they came out with an album called 5 Deep. And if you thought that Mando Bongo was a left turn, this was even more experimental, esoteric album than anything that they'd done before. And I can imagine the looks on the record company's faces going, wait a minute, where are the hit singles? You know, we want you to record something with a good beat, something with Bob's poetic lyrics. And the band probably stood back and said, oh, they want beat poetry. So they would record something crazy and insane. And it was just wonderful. Sometimes that's not the best commercial route for a band to take, but it's really satisfying for the musicians and the fans who love to follow them on their journey. This album is another great album. Came out in 1982. Never in a Million Years, Talking in Code. They have a re-recorded Up All Night on the British version, but that didn't make it on the American version. Skin on Skin was a huge track on KROQ down in LA at this time. 5 Deep, or V Deep, as us more unintelligent people refer to it as, or maybe it is V Deep, and I'm just acting like I'm hip by calling it 5 Deep. Doesn't matter. It's the Boomtown Rats. It's a great album. You really need it. As I showed you, there are the bonus tracks. 2 years passed, and out comes In the Long Grass, 1984. What a stellar album this is. It's really kind of moving away from that esoteric, moving closer to a more commercial sound without giving up any of their personality and without selling out. But it may have been something that the record company pushed them to do. It's a great record and contains a lot of great songs like A Hold of Me, Drag Me Down. This also has the song Dave. They had to re-record the song in the U.S. and called it Rain, which I'm sure that the band was totally happy with. Hard Times and Another Sad Story and more bonus tracks on that. Now, it was roughly around this same time that Bob was getting involved in Band-Aid and in Live Aid, and that, of course, took everybody's attention off of the Boomtown Rats and solely on Bob Geldof. Up to that point, it was the Boomtown Rats and their singer, Bob Geldof. But after that, it was Bob Geldof and, the Boomtown Rats, which was really sad. I'm sure that was really frustrating for Bob and the band trying to focus on their great original music. And I just realized that I've been calling him Bob Geldof. Should I be calling him Sir Bob? I mean, is it illegal for me to call him Bob Geldof? Anyway, In the Long Grass came out in 1984. Another absolutely 100% wonderful album. Is it the fine art of surfacing? No. Is it Mando Bongo? No. Every Rats album was different. That was a great thing about this band. They were smart enough to not really repeat themselves. They never had another variation of I don't like Mondays because they're always looking forward. But of course, all good things come to an end. And since Bob was so involved with the whole Live Aid and Band Aid experience, and that took up a lot of his time, the Boomtown Rats slipped away and they were never to be heard or seen again. Oh, but that's kind of a lie, because a handful of years ago, they got back together again, Gary Roberts, Simon Crowe, Pete Burkett, and Sir Bob, and they did a series of live dates. Then they would shrink into the shadows and reemerge the next year for another series of live dates. And just very recently, they announced a brand new album for 2020. The album is called Citizens of Boomtown, and I've heard the single Trash Glam Baby, and it contains all those great things that you love about the Boomtown Rats, except it's a very modern sound as well. So look forward to that. I say go back and check out the Boomtown Rats back catalog. They do have quite a few different compilations out. The one that I have handy just to show you is Greatest Hits. This was, I think, the first American full-length best of, and it was probably released to cash in on his Band Aid, Live Aid notoriety. But it's a great collection of songs. And then there's another one called Loudmouth, which is a collection of Boomtown Rats and Bob Geldorf solo tracks. And there's a few that have come out since then. So I'd say get any of the Boomtown Rats albums. Also check out Bob Geldof's solo albums. He's got quite a few out. I didn't want to make this video without mentioning those, but I'm just focusing on Boomtown Rats. Definitely keep an eye out for their 2020 album, Citizens of Boomtown. Anyway, that's it for me. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. I appreciate you hanging out and letting me babble about music for a little bit. And until the next time, my name is SPAZ, and I'm a CD junkie.